San Diego Watercolor Society is over 50 years old, and we're one of the more established art organizations in the country. And we are extremely fortunate that we are able to support nationally known artists by having them come and do workshops for us, as well as to do a demonstration on our member meeting, which is this evening. And this week, or this time, we have David Lowenberg here, and he's very well known. He's published throughout the world. He's exhibited. He's known for California Vibe.
California Vibe.
And can you tell us what that means and what that's all about?
California Vibe is an expressive portraiture style in terms of color, not natural color, but expressive colors, and I do that by following the value pattern across the face. And it's also I utilize expressive means of applying paint to paper. I mean,
what does that mean exactly?
Oh, I use splatters, I use straws, I use syringes. I will mop and
do you use paper?
Yes, and I use cat's tongue. I love this cat's tongue. I use a syringe, believe it or not. Oh, there went some water. I hope I didn't squirt you. A straw. Nothing new about this, but California Vibe is to get a portrait that is super expressive, and it also has to start with a super expressive style of photograph. So this is a painting that was done from a photograph of one of my students I used to teach at Sacramento City College, and I love the way she put her hand up to her face and closed her eye, and then also, here's another one that one of my workshop students did. So, he's looking up. This photograph was taken in bright daylight, so we got super dramatic value. So, with the California Vibe, the expression starts with the reference photograph, and then it goes from there in terms of color and texture.
So do you select certain people that you like to paint, or is it the way that you photograph it?
I think it's mostly the way that I photograph. And I have a background in photography, so I know how to go around the subject, different angles. I can tell my subjects different things, like I'd like the hand up to your face, or don't look at the camera, but look at me. Don't move your head, just look at me. So I like to get evocative types of facial expressions and dramatic lighting on the face.
Yeah, look, here is an example of
another one of I used to teach at Sacramento City College, so I had lots of built-in models for me to photograph.
And this one is really lovely. Another good example. And this is the California Vibe.
That's definitely California. You can see the super bright, saturated colors. I love color. This is what I'm going to do today. This is one of my students. Here's the photograph. So in my California Vibe workshop, and I've done it here, I give pre-workshop instructions before I'm even here, before I even come to the workshop. And I say, okay, I want you to take your subject outside in some bright sunlight. If the fog's going to come in off the ocean, it's cloudy, okay, take a picture inside, turn off all the lights, have a bright light, and take a selfie or have somebody take a photograph. And move that camera around different angles. Pretend like you're an Academy Award-winning cinematographer and get some action going. Maybe some expression. You don't always have to have expression, but just get an interesting photographs. Pick your favorite one, make a black and white print, and then, now this is a different subject, but it shows the process. So I have this gentleman, I took a photograph of him, made a black and white print. Then I put this on my light table, tape it down. I tape tissue paper, see-through tracing paper that you can get at the art stores, or see-through vellum. You put that on top. You don't do a lot of tracing. You do just enough tracing to see the structure of the head and the value shapes. When I paint anything, I'm not painting things, I don't name them, I'm just painting value shapes. It could be a landscape, it could be a face, it could be a figure, it could be a still life. I'm painting value shapes. So this becomes my master tracing, my master outline. So again, the intimidation factor is limited. It's just not there because I never do a one-off. I want to play. I want to do one after another until I get bored and I go to another subject. So from this master, I can put this in a plain paper copier, blow it up, reduce it to whatever painting size. I'm probably going to graduate to photographing these and putting it on a zip drive or on my computer and plugging that into these new digital projectors. They are fabulous, and that's the way I'm going to go in the future. And I can save all my photographs and all my master tracings on my computer and on a zip file or a thumb drive. So, I teach in my workshops, you don't need a lot of brushes. I do have some brushes. I got a little deer hair liner brush that I do lots of little squiggles on for embellishments. I like to paint with this brush a lot. It comes to a nice point. I can do fine details, fine little details, but then I can press down and really mop the paint on. Spray bottle, of course, we all use these to get runs and to move the paint around. There's my straw. You know, these two, either a round or a cat's tongue, I do 95% of my painting just with this, and then a few specialty brushes. And that's all you need. Here's one before I came here last week. You know, I like to have a border around my paintings, and I'm sure a lot of you do too. So, you know, you do this, you do this, you do this. You paint, take it off. You got a nice white border. It's kind of like a built-in frame or mat. But then I thought, well, I'm not going to do it now. Why don't I do something like this and break up the frame? Okay. In real time when I did this demo, it was almost 1.5 hours of painting time. I got to tell you, it really pooped me out. The painting came out great, but that was a lot of painting to do in front of an audience, talk about what I was doing, and answer questions. So, hence the voiceover and a faster pace, a la time-lapse. So, as you can see here, I'm doing his eyebrow, partial forehead, and eye sockets with warm and cool colors. And throughout this time-lapse video, if you see a little gesticulation with my hands, that's obviously me talking to the audience. You can see me starting on his nose now. And generally when I do a portrait, I go from top to bottom. Top of the head, the eyes, eyebrow, nose, mouth, chin, and in this case his beard. So you'll see the process here. And again, I work with warm and cool colors. Wet on dry primarily. There'll be a little wet on wet, but it's mostly wet on dry. Now, throughout this time-lapse video, that blue tape's a little disconcerting to see as part of the painting. I like to use blue tape because it seems to do a good job keeping the paint from going underneath the tape. And I've done it so much it doesn't bother me anymore. But you'll see
The portrait's going to look a lot better with the rough-edged white frame around it. You'll see that at the very end. So far up to this part of the portrait painting, I'm painting primarily with yellows like cad yellow light, yellow ochre. I love opera. Maybe I think there's a little cad red in there, some orange. Very warm colors. As I come down, you'll see I'm doing it right now. I'm getting into the cool colors. And those are usually phthalo blue, green shade, ultramarine blue, cobalt. Maybe sometimes I throw in a little turquoise. Here's the key as I throw in some of these expressive bright colors. I do have to follow the value patterns on the head structure and the facial features. So if there is a lighter area on the top of the cheek, I can't lay in a color that's too dark of a value. It's got to be either a medium or a light medium value. But as I go, say, underneath the nose where there isn't much light being reflected, then I paint with a color that has a deeper value. And this also keys up with paint consistency. Usually in the light areas, the paint's going to have the consistency anywhere from tea to milk. As you get to the mid values, the paint consistency is going to be a little more viscous, if you will, from milk to cream. And then in the darkest areas, I may pull paint right from the well of my palette. It's going to be very thick. It's going to have the consistency of, you guessed it, butter. Notice how I'm treating the beard, his silver or white beard, as a negative area. I'm painting the dark and medium values around his beard, and that brings out that beard shape. And later on, I may throw in a few strokes that indicates hair. But I don't have to do a lot of detail. It's going to read, as a viewer looks at it, it's going to read as a beard without me getting into a lot of little detail with a tiny little brush. I hate tiny little brushes, and I like to keep my portraits fairly impressionistic and not photographic. Look at those medium values that I painted underneath the lower lip. I mean, that really brings out the dimension of his lower lip. That's called value control. And value control, I don't care whether you're doing a portrait, still life, landscape, it is very, very important to have that mastery over value control. The next thing that is coming up is you'll see me put some blue tape around part of his nose because I painted in a value that I felt was too dark. I wanted a highlight. So I wanted to protect the area around his nose. And then I used a Mr. Clean Magic Eraser Original to pull off the paint and get back down to the white of the paper, thus making a nice highlight. It's a good trick. Now, as they say, it's just a matter of some final touches. All about the head and the face, and I'm done. By the way, through this sequence of close-ups, you'll get a glimpse of the ragged white border I made with that blue tape. And I do hope that you enjoyed seeing the progress of my 1.5 hour demo painting for the San Diego Watercolor Society.